Greg, you start.
Hi, I'm Greg McIntyre. Welcome to our entrepreneurship event. I'm an attorney. I'm an estate planning and elder law attorney, also probably an entrepreneur as well. To start and grow a firm, it takes a lot of entrepreneurship and to survive. So I'm here with my esteemed colleague, Samantha Gordon. Samantha, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I am attorney Samantha Gordon with McIntyre Elder Law. We practice estate planning, estate administration, estate litigation, as well as benefits, all within the realm of elder law.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
And thank you all for joining today. I am Bianca Simmons, the Pro Bono Programs Coordinator with the North Carolina Bar Foundation and point of contact for the NCBF's Entrepreneurs Assistance Program. Again, today we have with us Samantha Gordon and Greg McIntyre, who will be presenting on the importance of estate planning for your business. If you have questions, please wait until the end during our Q&A session to ask those. I will now turn it over to Greg and Samantha to go ahead and begin today's webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Bianca and Julie. All right, Greg.
So, Sam, I know that we're going to get into the discussion. You have a great outline for us today. Um, I wanted you to give a quick overview of key information in regards to entrepreneurship in North Carolina.
Sure. So prior to this, we were really looking into business formation and how instrumental entrepreneurship is to North Carolina. So some statistics for you just to kind of start off. So new business applications in 2023 averaged 14,243 new business applications per month in North Carolina, which is outstanding. That's great. In addition, any key industries for those business applications for North Carolina that included aerospace and defense, which I was surprised about, automotive, truck and heavy machinery, biotechnology and pharmaceuticals, business and financial services, which is kind of what you think of when someone's starting a business. I think that is generally what you'll think of, but these other avenues as well as energy, that was a key industry as well that individuals were submitting applications for in North Carolina. So that was interesting. And those were some key information that we wanted to just start off this presentation with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, when we talk about entrepreneurship, the first things people think of are business plans. So I think business plans are essential, also overrated. Okay. And we'll talk about how to put together just nuts and bolts of a comprehensive business plan, but also the positives and negatives to a business plan. Okay. And here's where I see a lot of entrepreneurs, if there's entrepreneurs that are watching that are already well into their business, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. There is kind of planning stagnation. So people really, really have a failure to launch, I see a lot of times, because they're so concerned about getting everything right in their business plan. And you're never going to get everything right in your business plan. You're going to do your best to put together your mission, what it's about, what you do, what your finances are, what your mission is, what the prognosis is, maybe some industry statistics in your industry as far as what your success may or may not look like, some differentiators, what makes you special. Those are the things you're going to put in a business plan. That business plan, I would argue, is more for you than it is for anyone else. Especially if you're a startup and starting out, that it's going to be hard if you're already into it and maybe you haven't found out yet. If you're a startup, it's going to be hard to get a lot of financing up front. Okay, even just based on a business plan, depending on what it is. However, it's important to have. Banks would like to see it, but it's not necessary. In my experience, what's important is that you know what your mission is, you know what your plan is, and you set off on that path without everything being perfect. I guess good is better than great. Kind of perfection is the enemy of progress, things like that. Perfection is procrastination. Never try to get that thing perfect. put the outline down, put some meat on those bones. There's plenty of resources out there. Google it. If you want any help with writing a business plan, feel free to give me a call. Call our firm. You can call my cell phone, 704-751-8031. Be glad to help. And love to do those things, love to review those plans, and love to comment, because I do have a lot of experience in not only writing business plans, but just business in general. I was watching a Steve Jobs clip last night that popped up on my TikTok. Okay. And it popped up because my phone listens to me. And Sam and I were talking about this yesterday and preparing for it. And it was 50%, his estimation was that 50% of all businesses really fail because of lack of perseverance. The really real differentiator in a business success and failure, it's not the business plan, it's not the financing, it's not anything but your soul, digging deep, perseverance, and refusal to get off your spot, to be moved from that spot in your progression toward your goal. You might not go from a straight line from here to there. It's more like sailing. You got to tack back and forth, but you're still going toward that goal, depending on where the wind's blowing that day and what happens, or what emergency happens, or what blows up, or what falls through. It's not being crushed by it and understanding your worst fears are never going to come true. So you need to sit back, keep your head together, persevere, and move forward. That's the biggest differentiator in businesses that succeed or fail, period. If you've got some wacky idea that's never going to work, you might want to reconsider that. Okay. But there's some wacky ideas out there that I would have said would have never worked. But, somebody with some passion and perseverance got behind it and killed it. Right. So business plan, important, but the most important thing, perseverance. I like marketing too. I think as important, or maybe more important than your business plan, is how are people going to know that you're selling something? How are people going to know that you are actually providing a service or that you've made a product? You need to consider that heavily in your business plan and heavily going into developing a marketing plan, which can be quite simple. I will develop and vomit out huge list in marketing plans regularly, at least several times a year. Okay. And supplement our current marketing plan. But I really try to boil that down to three main objectives I'm going after. And usually the things on those lists line up as subs under those three main objectives. And so you have to know your target. What's your target audience? And everything lines up with that target. If you're like B2B manufacturing, your target is going to be other businesses that are going to buy the goods that you're making or the service you're providing. And you're not going to need to call on those. And you're going to need to figure that out from a sales aspect to go after it. In my business, in my industry, people like to get law degrees and hang a shingle, and we think we're the most haughty-taughty best thing going. So we're waiting for everyone in town to line up at our doors to seek our legal services for me as a brand spanking new attorney with no experience. Okay. And nobody knows my name. Well, that's just not reality, especially in today's world. That is not reality. And I get that. I think I got that early on. And I utilize a number of different strategies in our firm to get the word out. As you build a client base over time, you're going to get referrals. As you associate with different professionals, you're going to make relationships, but you can speed that along. And I'm all about shortening the timeline to flip a switch and have an office open and be ingrained in that community as much or more than somebody who's been there for 30, 40 years. And I'm pretty decent at that. I've gotten better at that. I'm shortening the timeline every time we open a new office. So a third, I would like to take in business from prior client referrals and networking referrals. There are networking groups out there, B2B groups out there. B&I used to be an amazing, I'm an old school B&I-er, an amazing group. There's a ton of different B2B groups out there where you can associate with other professionals in your industry. Every industry has them. It doesn't matter. You know, you could be an underwater basket weaver, and there is some kind of association out there that's the Underwater Basket Weavers Association that you can be involved in and learn what they do and associate with them. Although I don't think that's necessarily the best group for you. The best group for you would be the networking association that bought the underwater baskets you weaved. Okay. So for an attorney, I don't like to hang out with a ton of attorneys all the time. It's not that I don't like them. Some I like, some I don't. What I like to do is I like to hang out with my clients or people who can send me clients. That just makes total common sense to me. Attorneys can send you clients too if they stay in their lane, right? If they do, and then so that's where that can make sense for an attorney or for us, Sam, right? Sam's very good at that. Okay. I might want to be in a group that has accountants and financial planners in it, real estate agents, those people who are really associating people on a daily basis so I can lay networking pipelines that flow business to me within that third. So client referrals, networking referrals. The other third, I might want to get from marketing, social media. Okay. So we might want to figure out, okay, marketing, including print marketing, billboard ads, other social media ads. We're going to decide on that strategy within that third, and we're going to go after it. Now, personally, I like a term called omnipresence. If you flick on any kind of digital device, I want to be in your face. And I have a phone in my pocket that is worth millions of dollars. This phone, the return on investment that I have on this phone is absolutely ridiculous. It's stupid. I can turn on this phone and talk to planet Earth any time of day, all day. So frequency and quality of those communications. And frankly, in today's world, the really polished 1955 Crest toothpaste commercial that's really clean and everything's perfect and the teeth are white and it's blinging on a black and white screen. People don't trust that anymore. We have a window into people's lives since we're born now. So we trust reality, things that are imperfect. I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. I don't walk on water, and that's okay. And you know what? You trust that. Well, I want you to know that whether you like me, don't like me, I want you to respect me and know that I know what I'm talking about and I'm going to do a good job for you. So in my industry, that's what I want to convey. So I use this as a way to do that. And we do videos that are more perfect than others. You can check out some of my dance videos. They're not perfect. Okay. You can make fun of me. I can't dance and I can sing. Okay. But I can also lawyer and I put out all that. My family, people care more about Sam's dogs than they do, than they do some polished legal video that she does. I promise you. Okay. Or at least that's going to be part of it. Share your life. That would be my biggest advice on that side.
You're
Share
showing
your
you're a real person, that you're not just your
Yeah,
professional.
you're just a person. That's right. You're not just a squeaky clean professional that's trying to put out nothing but perfection to everyone. You see a company or you see a person doing that, there's something going to be off to you, and you're innately going to not trust that. It's like Malcolm Gladwell's book, Blink, which I would recommend to everyone. You're going to make those split-second decisions based on evolution, based on how you're going to judge something. A book by its cover. Not right, maybe. Once you get to know somebody, dig deeper, read the book. But that's how you're going to initially make your decisions, okay? So, social media. Big fan. I could go do an entire piece on social media for a long time because it's a deep rabbit hole to go down. And it's fun, okay? It's fun. Other third, in our business, it's seminars. It's actually getting out there. What is the biggest platform that I can speak to and create trust with a large crowd? The larger, the better. Give me a 10,000 person stadium, right? And I'll figure out how I can talk to them. And if they have any concerns or questions afterwards, we'll figure out how we can answer those questions. So, doing estate planning seminars and events, different events, that's part of our marketing mix. So you'll have your own marketing mix depending on your business and what you do. That's just mine. Okay. Then there's so many different strategies for different businesses. I just saw your outlines, strategies for businesses, right? I just gave you one for a lawyer. If anybody wants to copy it, good luck. Let's go. All right. And then, but every business has a social media strategy. I mean, some of the biggest companies on planet Earth, have great social media accounts and great Twitter accounts. And the best one, like, I don't know, Red Bull. That's my point. People care about your dogs, not your legal work, or not what you're talking about. Red Bull, go show me a Red Bull ad on their social media account that just has a can of Red Bull and is like, buy Red Bull today. Nah, they got people jumping out of planes and doing motocross and crazy stunts and things like that. That's how they sell Red Bull or F1 racing. I mean, it's like a window into what it's like to be involved in that Red Bull lifestyle. It gives you wings, right? So, think about that. Marketing can be super fun. Plenty of marketing agencies out there, I'm sure. I've connected with some of them, didn't like many of them. I'm much more of a God, I love to read. I think reading is so much about it too. Great book out there, Titan. Okay. Read Titan. It's about vertical integration and Rockefeller and how he vertically integrated everything. So the more you can have it in-house, the more creative you can be, the more you can do accounting or marketing or anything else. Networking and community engagement. I think I did that, but not from maybe a soulful place, which is the place from whence I like to come, a loving and soulful place. Sam is really involved in Wheels for Heroes and the NC Bar Foundation, other more charitable organizations. I like, for one of the aspects of what I do, to be charitable. I would caution that you can load your plate so full that your charitable work becomes a full-time job. And if that's what you need to be your job, then you rock that. Okay. But if you also have another full-time job, it can interfere. I have been in that situation and I felt like I was spread too thin. I like to really pick a cause that I can really sink my teeth into and be effective at. Okay. But get some real replenishment there so you can really serve your community. I think just becoming a part of the fabric of your community is so important when you have a service-based business, especially that serves a community. In the broader manufacturing community, I imagine that would be much different, but it's still a community. And what can you do to really serve that community and people in general? So you can sleep good at night, sleep well. So Sam, those are my thoughts on just entrepreneurship, running a business, and there's so many more facets and parts that you add, and especially scaling and growing. Another one that came to mind, I think the biggest hurdle for entrepreneurs is, man, entrepreneurs can juggle everything and they can do it all. And that's a problem. As you grow and scale, you cannot do it all. So you have to change. And I think on the other side of what Steve Jobs said in that video, what I would say has been one of my biggest hurdles, and I think most biggest hurdles for business people, especially small business people, is the ability to manage, to let go of control and be able to effectively step up level after level in managing a bigger and larger and growing organization, which puts a cap on the growth for most people and most businesses. It caps their growth unless they're willing to, in an effective way. You cannot retain control in baseball. The way you hit a fast pitch is you have loose hands. The tighter you hold the bat, the less you're going to be prepared to hit the ball. That is absolutely true. Anybody who knows baseball can attest to that. The tighter you hold on to control in that organization, the less you're going to be able to hit the faster pitches and be able to grow. And it's going to hamper your growth. So invest in a coach that knows what they're doing, that jives with you. Invest in reading, education, and just be willing to fail at managing and learn from your mistakes and be open. That's what I see. I've been told a million times you cannot grow a law firm beyond a certain size. I do not believe that. There are huge law firms out there, and the people that say that are scared to put in place the proper mechanisms to be safe in practice and grow in practice. So don't listen to all the naysayers out there. Be open, be willing to grow, and be willing to make mistakes and fail. I mean, that's important. You got to be able to fail and be able to try new things, lose money. Because if you learn from that, you're going to make a lot more money and be able to help and serve a lot more people. So that's my little spiel and section on entrepreneurship from what I hope is a really fun place. If you can't tell, I freaking love what I do. I love this. So, yeah. Sam, I'll kick it back over to you. We were going to talk about and maybe get into a little estate planning for entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah,
And
thanks,
that's so
Greg.
important.
I'm sure that was great, and I definitely think that your passion definitely comes through the screen. So, estate planning and entrepreneurship, small business ownership. So, estate planning is not just for the elderly. It's not just for when you get old. If you do your estate plan, that doesn't mean something is going to happen to you. It is not a fun topic to talk about, and a lot of people avoid it. But as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, it is so important to have an estate plan in place. And an estate plan just does not happen to the business. It also encompasses if you were not able to handle your business and you were still alive because something happened where you lost capacity, could not manage the day-to-day anymore. Who can step into your shoes and keep that business going? Who is going to be able to manage the finances of that business? So first and foremost with estate planning, I wanted to discuss documents while you're alive and documents that are just as important to have to use while you're alive as documents after you pass away. So the first document is a financial power of attorney. And so, Greg, with a financial power of attorney, you appoint an agent, someone that you've chosen, that you trust, that in this document says, if I cannot manage my own assets and I need someone to do it for me, I have chosen this person to do that. So they step in my shoes as my fiduciary and they manage my business affairs, my business account, my clients, things like that to ensure that if I can't do it, I've chosen that person that can do it for me. And if I don't have that document, no one has legal authority to do it.
Yeah, everything hinges on the power of attorney, general durable power of attorney. Not everything, but so many people get stuck if they get themselves in a situation where there's a healthcare incident, and even husbands and wives, they're like, oh well, I can manage my husband's or wife's accounts. We're married, right? No, you can't. Good luck tapping into my 401k or IRA. Good luck. I have 6 kids, and guaranteed my wife would be stuck if she couldn't take out a home equity loan because I had to sign for it. She couldn't sell a piece of property we own, real estate. She couldn't, get into any accounts that were associated with just my name, and could not. Maybe she needs to tap my retirement account because I need some extensive care, or one of the kids, I don't know, needs something, a car to go to college, anything. She would be blocked from all that. And just as an individual, even as a single person, you really, if you have trusted individuals in your life, you want to appoint them to handle your important financial and legal affairs so the band can play on, so the bills can get paid. So if you have a business, it's even so much more important, because who's going to step in and be able to make sure at least the bills are paid until you're good to go. When I have a tummy ache, sometimes I just want to lay on the couch for a few days, okay, if it's a bad one. And in those cases, maybe somebody needs to just go manage something for me. It's not necessarily just for when you're older, or if you're in a catastrophic situation. I was on a boat one time in the Navy, and I was sailing home. I think I was in maybe the Mediterranean Gulf and Mediterranean Sea. And I called my dad, sent him over a general durable power of attorney and said, hey, I got this car. I'd love you to buy. Can you do it? And he met me on a pier at Norfolk, Virginia when we ported this aircraft carrier. And I got out into a new Camaro that I drove across country to San Diego, and it was the most fun. And my dad did it for me, but he was able to do it because I gave him the agency to do that. So they can be written in a ton of different ways. Most people who have them do not know what they say, and you cannot act like a short form power of attorney is very limiting in what the agent can do. And it's so important, especially with a business owner, to specify what the person can handle, because if it doesn't specifically spell out in the document what they can handle, there's many things they can't handle and they would be blocked from taking care of for you. So I would say you'd want to consult an attorney, estate planning or elder law attorney when you're getting into that kind of planning.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's also a healthcare power of attorney. So there's also a power of attorney for your health. If you do lose capacity, you cannot make any type of healthcare decisions. You can choose a trusted individual, your agent, to make decisions for you. So that's hiring and firing doctors, getting a second opinion from a doctor, treatment for you, as well as, do you want an autopsy? Do you want to be buried, cremated, your body donated to the sciences, organ donation? Do you have any type of religious limitations that should be followed as to your health care? This document is specifically going to list what individual in your life has the authority to make your health decisions, which can really, if something were to happen and there is no one to make those decisions, what is going to happen to your health? Who's going to be able to make decisions? How is the business going to continue to run? There's no one to be able to make decisions for you. Greg, if you want to touch on, your aspect of that
Mental
healthcare.
health care, depending on how many cups of coffee I've had that day, I walk a fine line, right? So no one could handle my mental health care unless I had a separate mental health care power of attorney. Healthcare powers of attorney are a different statute. So you want to make sure, same thing with the healthcare power of attorney. How is it written? What does it say? Okay. Does it incorporate allowing for mental health and medication as well? You touched on religious issues, autopsies, desecration of the body. There are certainly religions that do not allow that within the religious framework. And, if you actually can control that within the healthcare power of attorney. The only agency that survives death is the ability for your healthcare agent in North Carolina, if you have a section that refers to that statute and spells that out, they can handle the disposition of the body. And that means whether there's an autopsy or not, whether there's how burial is handled, cremation. Maybe you want your body to be donated to science, but you graduated from Duke, and heaven forbid that the body wind up at Carolina. You want to spell out all that in the healthcare power of attorney, and it gives you the ability to do that. They're much more complex than most. The ones the doctor or hospital will give out are very basic and may work to appoint someone to simply handle simple medical decisions, but there's so much more to that. A HIPAA authorization, you would want to make sure that was built in. Without a HIPAA authorization, it used to be pretty easy for attorneys to get medical records, especially in civil cases like personal injury cases. Not anymore. Cannot get that unless you have a written authorization, and you can build that right within the healthcare power of attorney, and we generally do.
Good point. And then there's also a living will, which is not to be confused with the last will and testament. They are two different documents. I call a living will an advance directive. So what this document does is, if you're in three situations, if you have an incurable or irreversible condition, if you have advanced stages of dementia, or if you're in a coma and you are on a life prolonging measure that is keeping you alive, and the doctor has determined to a high degree of medical certainty that you are not coming out of the situation, your advance directive can be presented to the doctor. And it says, if I'm in one of these situations, I'm not coming out of it. Take me off of the life prolonging measure, keep me comfortable, maintain my dignity, but my family, my friends, whoever, my loved ones, do not have to make that decision. If I'm in this situation, this is what I want. So it allows you to have a say when you no longer have a say at that point. And a lot of individuals like that document so that the burden is taken off of their family and loved ones.
Agreed. Religious considerations within the living will as well. I might, if I was Catholic, I might want a Catholic living will specifically written to have last rites, Eucharist administered prior to taking me off. Right. And so So that is very important, okay, to be able to incorporate those things, and everything is individual. If you're a business owner, there's so many facets of what makes you you. You want those instructions and plans to be tailored directly to you. So, I would say consult an attorney to make sure they're done that way. So,
Definitely. And then 3 documents while you're alive. General durable power of attorney, that's the financial power of attorney. Healthcare power of attorney, dealing with health decisions, and then your advance directive. That's with life prolonging measures. So those are 3 documents that we've discussed that deal with situations while you are alive. So when you think about estate planning, you really are thinking about your legacy, what happens to the business after I pass away. That's when wills, trusts, succession planning, business succession planning really comes into play to figure out what is going to happen. Because it's not only just
now
your
we're getting into the good stuff, the meat of it.
now we're getting into now we're getting into good stuff. So this is not only thinking about your business, but also thinking about your assets, thinking about what's going to happen to my home. Do I have rental properties? Thinking about bank accounts, retirement, annuities, all these different aspects of all these assets that you hold. What is going to happen? And when you sit down with an estate planning attorney, really the key is to get an idea of what your assets look like, because estate planning is not a one size fits all type of thing. It is very specific to your family, your background, your assets, and what your goals are. And when you sit down with an estate planning attorney, the plan and really the goal of your plan is to ensure that what we do for your estate plan carries out what you want, and it also makes it easier on your family after you pass away. And usually protecting your assets, trying to avoid probate, which is the ugly court proceeding where you have to go through the courts to administer assets. And most people do not want to have their families go through that. So when we sit down with a client, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at your family, your background, your goals, your assets to really determine. And if you what your estate plan should be. And if you have a business, that is a very important part of your estate plan to figure out how that business is going to pass upon your death. Do you have a partner? Are you the sole owner of that business? Do you have an operating agreement? These are, this is information. Is it an LLC? Is it a corp? Trying to figure out all of this information to really make sure that your estate plan meets the goals of the business. So, Greg, if you wanted to kind of just touch on that as well.
Sure. Yeah. We employ a lot of different strategies. Sam broadly put out a lot of different tools that we use in what would overall be termed business succession planning. But the idea is that I don't pass away and now my partner's in business with my wife. They would like each other, I'm sure they do, but not business partners. What's going to happen to my share of the business? I can designate that. I could designate that in something as simple as a will. Now, in my business, in a professional business, we need to consider that only another attorney can be an owner of a law firm. So I actually have a son who is an attorney. So, how is that going to be divvied up? I have a business succession plan in place. That will change over time as our firm changes and grows and there's more partners. But it's important for me to be able to utilize at least a will to be able to say what happens. Also, we want to look at the business entity itself, whether it's a corporation, what I term a corporation, and it is a corporation. Sub S or S corporation is just a sub S election. I think it's a form 4553 you file with the IRS that says, hey, I've got X number, 50 or less employees, and I'm going to have flow through taxation, but I still want the protection. And I have shares of stock that I issue. LLC, I have a percentage of ownership that is 100% mine if it's a sole member LLC, or maybe 50-50, 51-49, or any other split of that ownership, depending on the members of the LLC. The managers of the LLC get to make decisions, okay? They can make decisions. The members, you can be a passive member of an LLC and not have any decision-making power, but be granted flow-through income, a percentage of the LLC in proportion to your ownership, and operating agreements and bylaws. Corporations have bylaws. LLCs have operating agreements. So 2 different things, Similar concepts though, okay? And you can designate what happens to your share or owners' shares, different owners' shares after they pass away. So it's like adding beneficiaries to accounts or a life insurance policy. You can do the same thing to your business. You may want to operate the business without fear of getting sued and your home getting taken. That's super important too. The LLC and the corporation protects you. The sub-S election that you take on a corporation allows for flow-through taxation instead of double taxation at the shareholder level and income level. The LLC is designed automatically for flow-through taxation, but you can still take a sub-S election. So you could maybe say, hey, I want to ultra protect this. They both protect from liability while allowing full control and flow through taxation, depending on the entity. There's different situations where you might want a corporation as opposed to an LLC, which is technically at the federal level termed a corporation. And I always argue with the IRS because North Carolina really divides them into two separate concepts, but they're all under the umbrella of a corporation. Okay. LLC, special entity. Okay. I love LLCs to run most types of small to medium-sized businesses. I would consult an accountant. That's extremely important, especially if you have an LLC that contains real property and you have a lot of rentals, because there's certain advantages and disadvantages to taking a sub-S election with an LLC that contains real estate and rents. So I would consult an accountant before I made that decision and filed that sub-S election on the LLC if you're in the real estate business, okay? We might want to go a step further though. And again, saying you can say what happens with business succession planning after someone passes away, okay? We might want to add insurance policies in there. They're called key man insurance policies. Today, we might call them key person insurance policies. We can call them anything we like, but what it does is if one partner passes away, it allows the business or other partners to be able to get paid, or I'm sorry, to pay off and buy that partner's interest back, or that owner's interest back, or that shareholder's interest back. So that insurance is in place to ensure the steady operation of the business. And then perhaps I've got it set up so my wife would get paid out for the amount of value of the percentage business that's going back into the business or to the other partners, because she doesn't want to run the business. The other partners don't want to run it with her. She may not be an attorney, but she gets to have some money in exchange for that property, which it really is property, that ownership interest. Keyman insurance is essential to set up, and we work with insurance agents all the time. They're used to setting that up in those types of agreements. You might want to do what I say is a Russian nesting doll strategy and house that LLC or corporation within a trust. So you've got a protection within a protection, a box within a box. And that's a layered approach to asset protection. And we can go as many layers deep as you want. Trusts can set up corporations or LLCs. Other LLCs can set up corporations or LLCs. So there's many different ways to play this game for maximum control and minimum liability to you personally. I think you want some skin in the game, right? But ideally, you'd be able to commit your heart and soul to this business, persevere, protect it, benefit and profit from it, serve a lot of people and do a lot of good, and then maybe create a legacy for your family and take care of your family well past the time you're gone. So trusts are great tools to do that, along with the business entities. So being an estate planning and elder law attorney, you have to be familiar with, and I think really jazzed about working with business owners and entrepreneurs and helping them create these types of plans. You might want to have an attorney be your registered agent. In fact, I'm a huge fan of that. That way you're not hanging your name out there at the Secretary of State's website on the filing to say, hey, sue me. What you're doing is you're hanging it out there to say, hey, sue the attorney. No, don't sue the attorney. Send the notice if there's a lawsuit to the attorney. So the attorney, if I get that on my desk, I'm going to review it. Then I'm going to immediately probably shoot it out in an email, fax, mail to you if I'm the registered agent. And then I'm going to call you. We're going to set up a time where we're going to meet and discuss it. and say, hey, this is nothing, or this is what you should do, or you should move this asset, it may allow us time to protect and plan and shift assets. If you have not engaged in this type of planning, it would allow you maybe time and some shelter time and cover time to do that. But it's going to allow you to have an attorney in place to really receive those things and try to fend those things off for you as another shield, and a professional that can really interpret those documents, may have experience with what's coming at you and being served on you. And if you're in business long enough, trust me, you will experience those things, and there'll be heartbreakers, and there'll be tragedies, and your worst fears will flash before your eyes when you receive, those legal documents, or you get sued. But it's not the end of the world, and it can be navigated. Okay. So I like the idea of having an attorney in place as the registered agent, and that's where they get service. Anything else, Sam? I mean, I love using trust and and LLCs and the corporation. I think it just all plays together along with the operating agreements and
Yeah.
bylaws.
Yeah. And I also think that, just kind of going back a little bit and explaining the difference between a will and a trust, so that the audience knows kind of how those instruments,
Yeah. So
how those legal vehicles both work.
So a will would pass an entity or any asset through the probate process. A will is not worth the paper it's written on, or really a valid legal document, until it's accepted into the court system, into a probate court. And it has to be before it can have legal authority to pass any assets. And what they'll do is they'll issue the executor probate letters, or the administrators letters of administration. The court will, after the will is submitted to the court. And the will cannot be submitted to the court until after the drafter of the will dies. So I hope my will isn't submitted to a court for a long, long time. I hope yours isn't either. But one thing that does, the only place in North Carolina, the only window for claims to come through is through the probate process. So if there's somebody that says you owe them money, it could be the state, it could be the Fed, it could be an individual, it could be another business. The only place they can file that claim is in your probate estate. So if you're passing those assets through the probate estate, then they're subject to claims. North Carolina is not an expanded recovery state, so you can't reach outside of, or creditors can't force, and the court doesn't force, the law doesn't force the executor to reach outside of the probate estate to claw back or bring in assets to pay claims. Therefore, if we properly craft an estate plan, or if you do, including your business, then you can do it in a way that avoids the probate process and avoids claims after your passing. So you can say what happens to those assets after your passing. I think it's important, Sam. Sam, I'd let you take the stage here and run with it for a second. I'm going to pass the baton, okay? I'm curious as to, hey, if I use a trust and I avoid probate, I know I can shield this asset during my life, and it helps with liability protection. I have beneficiaries on the trust, but does it just give everything out instantly to the beneficiaries when I pass away? Or can I say what happens to this business or other assets after I die?
Yeah, so a trust has a lot of advantages. Specifically, the first one mostly is avoiding probate. You don't have to go through the ugly court proceeding that Greg just explained. But in addition to that, you can be as specific as you want in a trust. And you have something, which is a legal term that we use, called dead hand control with a trust, which means that you put what you want in that trust. And at the end of the day, when you pass away, when you
The
pass,
remote controls, hands sticking in the grave, and you're controlling your assets. I had a law professor a long time ago talk about that, and I've never forgotten.
Yep. And you control what happens to those assets through that trust after you pass away. And it can't be changed. That is what it is. And your beneficiaries, they just got whatever that trust says, that's what happens. So if you maybe have a minor child, or you have a child that has special needs, or you have a beneficiary that's not uber responsible and you don't want to leave assets straight to them, you can have it set up in your trust that they can get paid out through your trustee, who's the individual that you've chosen to manage that trust, maybe a certain amount each month or amount each year or a percentage of your assets, something like that, where you have that control to ensure that you're not just giving this beneficiary windfall that they may not be responsible with. Or if they do have special needs and they're receiving government benefits, if you give someone a ton of money, they could be disqualified from their government benefits. And you don't want that to happen. Or if you have a minor beneficiary, you can't just give assets to a minor. So a trust is a really good legal vehicle where essentially you have a pot of your assets when you pass away, and the trustee is tasked with managing this pot for the benefit of your beneficiaries, just the way that you've designated in that trust. And it really gives you a lot of control. And a lot of individuals, especially business owners, love to use this tool to make sure that what they want happens, and they ensure the protection for not only the business, but also their beneficiaries and their family.
Exactly. Well said. I mean, trusts are cool things. You know, Sam, you're talking about special needs, subtrust, you know, and discretionary trust for kids who you don't want to curse with a large amount of money at 18 years old, or grandkids. And you want to maybe make sure that it pays for health, education, welfare, with the intent that they go to college, university, or trade school. You can do that and then give out the rest over time, right? Just a lot of control there. Man, you see storied families in our nation that have used trust to build and maintain wealth over time, especially from business entities. So that is all around us when we look around, and in play, in the legal field all the time. So yeah, and you really want to you want to consult an experienced attorney when you're getting into planning like this. Okay. So next,
Well,
we've talked
Greg,
about.
I just wanted to
Sure.
jump off of something that you said, that meeting with an experienced attorney. A lot of people also think about costs for an estate plan. A lot of people think about that. It's so important that you put in the cost now to have the proper estate plan, because the repercussions of not having a proper estate plan in place for a business, for your assets after you pass away, could be 10 times as much. So thinking about it that way as well, you're putting up a small cost up front to ensure that the process after you pass away is handled appropriately and is less costly for your family.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that's very true. Okay. So you get a big return on your investment. I would like to say, tax consideration in estate planning, and considering business ownership, business as an asset passing through an estate plan. There's the estate and death tax. North Carolina does not have an active estate and death tax, which is kind. However, there is a federal estate and death tax, which is coupled with the gift tax. So it deducts how much you can give away at death. If you're over the annual estate and death tax exemption annually, and you have to file a gift return, so they just subtract toward your total. It's quite large. It's over 13 million right now. That sunsets in 2026 to around 5 million, and we don't know if or when or where it could be reset, but we're looking. We're trying to keep a pulse on that and keep everyone informed of that. But there are ways to consider what is within your taxable estate to exempt assets from a taxable estate using certain types of specialized trust. And so when you were doing estate planning, we're always looking at the tax issue also and trying to minimize any issues with estate and death tax, as well as afford as much step up in basis as possible whenever possible, and it's generally possible, to avoid capital gains tax for your heirs or beneficiaries. So by certain deeds that are set up, trust, as well as wills, all afford a step up in cost basis when you pass the asset to the next generation, to your heirs or beneficiaries. The step up in cost basis, easily explained as the amount of money you spent on a property. If I bought a property 40 years ago for $5,000, and now in Charlotte, Raleigh, many markets in North Carolina, it's now worth, I don't know, 750 grand. I want, when I die, I want my heirs or beneficiaries to have a property that if they sell it, their investment in it is considered 750 grand, not $5,000. If I give it to them during my life, they get my cost basis. So if they sell it for 750, they have a $745,000 capital gain that they have to deal with. If they sell it for 750 and they get a step up in cost basis at my death through some act of inheritance, through a will, trust, or certain types of deeds, then they have zero capital gain. And that is true of any asset, not just a piece of real estate. Stock's just easier to value because it has a specific market value any day at any time of day. Okay. And that's easily measured and historically easily measured by the value of the stock per share as given by the market, like the NICE or the NASDAQ or something like that. So step up in cost base is extremely important as well. Avoiding conflict. We want to avoid conflict as much as possible. Sam, how can the lack of estate planning set up a family for conflict if someone passes away?
Well, if you don't have an estate plan in place and you've appointed the person that you've wanted to handle your estate or your trust, then there could be multiple people that are entitled to handle that estate, or and then everyone's at odds with each other. Who's going to handle it? Maybe no one wants to handle it. There's not a document in place that says this is what's going to happen, this is who's going to handle it, and these are my wishes. And if your wishes are not clearly laid out, no one's going to know what your wishes are. And if you have any minor children, then guardianships can be involved if they are to inherit anything from you. Just having a document in place that specifically lists what your wishes are, it avoids any ambiguity, it avoids any questions, it allows everyone to really understand what you wanted and what needs to be carried out.
I think a tightly drafted estate plan is a lot about avoiding conflict and clarifying exactly what's to happen, who's to receive what, who's to do what. When you involve a business and partners and other shareholders, then it's even more important to avoid that conflict because it can arise and will arise quickly if that's not clear. And you'll see fights start to break out, legal fights and
Money makes
infighting.
people weird. That's what I say every day.
Like blood in the water for sharks. That's
Yep.
what it's like, even for families. And it's sad. It can tear families apart. So we want to keep families together and keep harmony. And a tightly drafted estate plan can do that. Okay. Yeah. So Sam, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss that we missed? I feel like we ran the gamut there fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think we really touched on, I think you gave a great presentation on being a business owner and just strategies that people should really be thinking about that may just be outside of the box than what you generally hear about, as well as how important estate planning is with being a business owner, but just in general as well. Estate planning is so important for yourself as well as your family. I know that Bianca wanted to allow a time for a Q&A portion so that if anyone did have any questions for us, you can ask now. I will say prior to us doing that, we developed a pamphlet that we had sent over to Bianca, which she can distribute to all the attendees here, that has our faces on it, our law firm on it, but also it's provided some resources for everyone that is attending this seminar today.
All right. Thank you both so much. All the information you guys provided today was super valuable. I have questions myself. But we do have a question from Kimberly. Her question is, what happens if I have placed deeds from family members regarding the capital gains and set up in coast with the general warranty deed, and can that be reversed?
So I think the question is that you've already transferred your interest of property to someone else and now you're worried about capital gains. Okay, yes. So yeah, that is what Greg talked about. So the step up in basis is available when you inherit that piece of property. So if you transfer the interest while you're alive, there's that capital gains issue. Which
When you gift the property, which is basically what's been done, you're
yeah,
gifting also everything with that property, the ownership and the cost basis. Okay, instead of receiving a step up in that basis, that would have to be reversed or gifted back. Then you could set it up to transfer at some act of inheritance, whether it be by deed or by trust or will. And those things are pretty easy to set up, even to avoid probate. Maybe we want to avoid the will with that. Yeah, those problems can be fixed. We fix some of those problems sometimes.
correct. And
So
then
I
her
love
next,
to retain ownership. I hate to think we live in a world where we have to give up ownership of property to maybe afford long-term care or benefits or things like that. That's
yeah,
that's what we live in. But there's
Bianca,
ways to do that and keep control. So yeah.
definitely. It looks like Bianca Kimberly would want our information first to follow up with that with us on that if
I
and we
will
could
definitely provide that information to you, Kimberly,
Kimberly,
along
we'd love
with
to
the payment.
address that specifically to you to make sure that we can answer all of your questions for sure.
Thank you, Samantha. Are there any other questions? Greg, with the business plan, I want to know, what do you feel is the most important, and I say most important piece of your business plan when putting things in place?
The most important piece of your business plan, and I assume you mean just the written plan, right? The written business plan. I think the process of going through the entire plan, a plan from where you are now to I'll tell you what I think it is, because I think most people plan too many steps ahead, right? That's why they're trying to get it too right, right? The recipe too right. At that point, when you're just starting, when I'm starting to make the cookies, some of them are going to taste a little funky to start out with. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to really start franchising those until I get that recipe, chef's kiss, right? Until I get it just right, But that may take a while, and I'll need feedback and things like that. So what's like the minimum point where I can go out to the public and do my business, or I can go to another business, right? That's what I think is the most important overall concept. But it's okay. Who am I? What is my business? What is it about? What is my specific mission? What is the top one thing, or at least top three things I'm trying to accomplish, and not getting too broad with it? I think it's keeping it simple. Kiss it, keep it simple, stupid. Okay. That's how I draft a jury argument or anything else. Okay. And just keep it simple for yourself and for your audience. And then you're going to put a lot of meat on those bones. I think it's creating an outline and then putting the meat on it with what fills out around it, and then knowing when to stop and knowing when to go, right? Knowing when you have enough gas in the tank there that you need to press the gas and go, and not getting analysis paralysis. Really, it's that's where people will get stuck. They really will. That's why I'm not. That's why I don't put a huge emphasis in that talk. I probably spent the least amount of time on that fun talk about the business plan, because I think when you start out, it's the least important thing. It's more important for you to clarify what you're doing than it is to go market to anybody else. Because when I'm starting out, when I was a young attorney starting out and I wanted to start my own firm, I'd worked with other firms. I had experience, but I bet you a bank, without me giving up, putting my house up or something else, for security, they weren't going to give me a lot of money. There's SBA loans for like the 50,000, things like that, but they have their own application and they would want to see a business plan. But there's several parts to a business plan, which is kind of the mission statement part and a little more elaborate than there. There's your financial statement part, which is kind of like a personal financial statement to who you are, because you're going to have to back your business. That's what I think a misconception that people have too, is they're going to go out there, start this business, and it's just going to be able to pay for everything. Well, what you have to do is you have to personally guarantee almost everything until the point that the business gets credit. And that's a Dun and Bradstreet report. Okay. So you can list your business with your tax ID number and your EIN number to start creating its own credit. And I would say you would want to. I always feel big when I can go out at some point and get somebody to, lend me money or whatever, and I don't have to co-sign. I still argue with them, because people want a face to a business and want somebody on the hook. you really want to put yourself out there with your face out there too. I think things are too corporate. Who are the best? Who are the most successful businesses on the planet? Name one.
Amazon.
Who's that tied to?
I got your point.
Jeff Bezos. Name
Yes.
another one.
Apple.
Apple. Look.
Who's that tied to? Who's it tied to?
Steve Jobs.
He's dead. Nobody even knows the new one. Yeah, they do. Tim Cook, I do, right? He's a good CEO, but still, he's the forever face of that company, right? Microsoft.
Yeah.
Bill Gates.
Yeah, he doesn't even work there anymore, I don't think, right? He's out. Him and Melinda done split the money and, gotten divorced and they're on with their lives, So yeah, it's being the face and being willing to be the face of your business and put your money on the line, put your assets on the line and be able to. Right. And then your business can kind of take on a life of its own. But you look at a Musk or a Jobs or any of those guys, and ladies too. There's plenty of women-owned businesses out there where there's a front woman out there that is the name, face, and the inspiration and the passion. What's that?
Spanx.
Spanx. Yeah, Spanx. McIntyre. Look at you. Yeah. No.
Yep.
Anyway, I just think it's important to realize that we are really our businesses. We really are. And you have to eat, sleep, and breathe it, be passionate for it, and be willing to talk about it. And be willing to live and die by it and take hits. I mean, you do business, you're going to take some hits. So the important thing in business plan is put down your financials, put down the meat, put down what your mission is, put down your obstacles. I think your 3 biggest obstacles to accomplish your goal. And that's going to let you force you to formulate your 3 strategies to overcome those obstacles. And it's going to show foresight, that you foresee that you're not foolish and you don't foresee that it's all going to be smooth sailings, that you've taken the foresight to think about some obstacles out there and strategies to overcome those, because that's going to be a lot about what doing business is.
Thank you, Greg, for that insight. I loved your point of view. It's so unique. It is great. I'm so happy to have you both here. And I do have one last question, and it's for you, Samantha, regarding estate planning documents. For someone who is trying to get the proper estate planning documents in place for their business, but as you know, sometimes it can be a little expensive. What do you feel is the number one document to start off with when preparing those estate planning documents for your business?
Sure. First and foremost, I'm going to say, arguably, it is not expensive when you look at the benefits of having an estate plan versus not. That is, something that we explain to people a lot, because yes, people do think a trust, oh my gosh, that's a comprehensive document. It's got to be expensive. And I mean, it is a cost up front, but arguably not as expensive as not having one. But if there is, you're starting your business, you're trying to build capital, things like that, and you want to at least have something in place. Certainly doing it in stages is better than not doing it at all, or having just a foundational plan in place where, hey, let's build the foundation so you have just the basic docs in place, and then we can build the house from that foundation as things move forward. So arguably, I would say powers of attorney would be super important to just have right off the bat, and then building from that foundation, building the house, thinking about a trust, a will, whatever is really going to be and accomplish whatever's really going to accomplish what your goals are.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And before we end today, are there any other questions?
I think we're good.
All right. I think we are good.
Thank you so much for having us. This has been a ton of fun.
Yes, again, and thank you, Greg and Samantha, for all the great information that you shared today. It is truly valuable. Also, I'd like to thank everyone for attending and participating. This webinar will be available within a week on our website at ncbarfoundation.org. I would like to thank our program partners, particularly Julie and the Small Business Center of the Carolinas, who share our webinars across their network, including the Small Business Hubs at Fayetteville State and East Carolina University, Mount BizWorks in Asheville, Prospera, and Climb in Charlotte. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to us via email at foundation@ncbar.org. And I will also be sharing that pamphlet that Greg and Samantha prepared. It is great. I cannot wait to share that resource with you all. But other than that, again, thank you all for joining today, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. Bye now.